Hey everybody, Thomas here and welcome back to SFF180, and I'm coming to you today from sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's a very pretty day outside. I'm here in my room at the DoubleTree, downtown Pittsburgh. Really nice, much nicer than the one in the Q&A video, that's for sure. And I am properly mic'd this time, so the video is gonna look and sound a little bit better. Well, I don't know so much about look better. I'm very much backlit. I've got really not much in the way of proper lighting, other than these two little lamps here in the room. So yeah, ugly lights, as it were. So it's a slightly better remote production than before anyway. So hello, I've been having a good time at the conference. I'm recording this on the morning of the 19th, Saturday, and I don't really have anything to do at the conference today in terms of programming that I want to see until about 1, so that gives me a little bit of time. So I'm recording this for you guys. Then I have my suit, my slacks, and my shirt for the Nebula Awards tonight to iron. By the time you watch this, the Nebulas will have been awarded, so we will know who those victors are. Who are my predictions? Well, it's kind of hard to say. I think, though, that among SFW and among Nebula voters for Best Novel, there seems to be an inordinate amount of love for 6 Wakes by Mur Lafferty. I personally do not think that that is an award-quality novel. I would much rather see the award go to something like Autonomous, or, of course, The Stone Sky, which is Best Fantasy of the Year, but you know, SFW is all about, you know, friends voting for friends and things like that a lot of the time. So we could see an upset from 6 Wakes, but then again, maybe not. We'll just have to find out tonight. Otherwise, this particular video is to show you the book swag that I've picked up. You might remember every year at the Nebula Conference, I get a little goodie bag. Everybody gets a goodie bag, big, huge goodie bag. Nice big tote full of freebies sent by publishers. And this year was, okay, you know, I don't want to, it sounds ultimately spoiled and entitled and privileged to, you know, get something like that and go, oh, disappointment. But yeah, a lot of what was in this year's goodie bag was, I'd say about half of mine was stuff that I already had. There weren't really any or that much in the way of like exciting arcs for upcoming things that I've seen before in the past. I was really hoping, for example, that Del Rey would have dropped off arcs for The Winter of the Witch. You know, stuff like that. Or maybe even for Peter Hamilton's upcoming book. That was maybe a bit too much to hope. Still, though, what you can do is everybody sort of goes through their goodie bag, keeps what they like, takes out what they don't want, and they put that back on the freebie table, and then you can swap and exchange, as it were. And it becomes a book swap. And I did a lot of that, and I have ended up with pretty much a full bag full of stuff to take home. There's a lot of stuff that I went through that I thought twice about, and I'm not keeping. Ton of YA and kid stuff that I'm just not really interested in. Some I am. But without any further time wasting, let me just show you what I have gotten that I am going to keep. And again, most of these are things that have already come out, but I just never got them in the mailbag, so they were worth picking up for that reason. I'm going to start with these two little items, though, because these were not part of the freebie table. In addition to the goodie bag, there is also a book depot, they call it. It's a little sales room. There's no dealer's room at the SFW conference. There is a room of books for sale that is sponsored by SFW, and these books are either donated or they're bought by SFW, you know, wholesale and then resold, and it is, of course, to benefit the organization. And a ton of stuff in there. And so I picked a couple of items that looked really attractive, even though I've never heard of this author. But this is by a local writer, local to Pittsburgh that is, named Jamie Lackey. And these are two little short story collections from a publishing house here in Pittsburgh, calling itself Air and Nothingness Press. But these are so pretty. Check this out. This first one is called The Blood of 4 Gods and Other Stories. And the other one here is called A Metal Box Floating Between Stars and Other Stories. Jamie Lackey. And these looked really interesting. Just to read to you from the back of this one, it says, journey into a world of myth and magic, of mystery and monsters. Within these pages, you'll find Mayan gods stalking through the cloud forest and lurking in the underworld, steam-powered golems patrolling crowded city streets, fox and fish spirits struggling with love and loss, a dragon doling out justice, a metal snake Scheming for Worship, and more. Jamie Lackey's debut collection contains 14 short stories, including 2 never-before-seen tales set in fantasy worlds inspired by Asian, Native American, and African myth and history. And look at, I mean, just such a pretty little edition, this tiny little paperback book. I mean, look at this. It's got those fold-out covers and really attractive art and graphic design for the, you know, well above the average for a small press in terms of production. So kudos there. So that's what I bought. Now for the stuff that was in the goodie bag that I have decided to keep. First one of these is this little YA novel called The Trader's Game. The author is Jennifer Nielson. This is book 1 of something. And it appears to be, I'll be honest, a fairly well standard YA fantasy, but I'm going to maybe give it a shot anyway. Seems to be very much inspired by something like The Winter's Kiss, those books. It says, nothing is as it seems in the kingdom of Antora. Kestra Dalasor, there's your heroine, has spent the last 3 years in exile, but that does not stop her from being drawn back into the web of her father's dangerous politics. He's second in command to the despotic and seemingly immortal king, Lord Endrick. With his arsenal of Ironheart soldiers and vicious condors, Endrick rules the land of Antora with a cruel and bloody fist. Her father's position makes Kestra a valuable bargaining chip, which a group of rebels understands all too well, and they snatch Kestra from her carriage as she reluctantly travels home. And I imagine her misadventures continue. Trader's Game, to be honest, I have looked up a trade review from like Kirkus or something, and they were like, So, wouldn't surprise me, but that's one. And then this next shiny little reflective book is from Tortine, of all people. It's by C.V. Wick, and it's called Blood and Sand. And as far as I can tell, even though it is from Tortine, it's not a fantasy. This looks like a straight-up historical set in ancient Rome. And it basically says, what if Spartacus was a young woman? Roma Victrix, the Republic of Rome, is on a relentless march to create an empire built on the backs of the conquered, brought back to Rome as slaves. Atia was once destined to rule as the queen and sword maiden of Thrace, the greatest warrior kingdom the world had seen since Sparta. Now she is a slave given to the gladiator Xanthus as a sign of his master's favor. Enslaved as a child, Xanthus is now the champion of Rome, the preeminent gladiator of his generation. Against all odds, Atia and Xanthus form a tentative bond. A bond that will spark a rebellion that threatens to bring the Roman Republic to its end and gives rise to the legend of Spartacus. So there you are. Like I said, straight up historical, no fantasy elements at all. But, you know, I'm kind of a amateur. I mean, there are people in fandom who are like real pros at their Roman history. I am an armchair Roman history enthusiast, yeah, so it's enough for me to say, okay, this one goes in the bag. And before anybody says anything, yes, there were women gladiators, gladiatrixes, women who fought in the gladiatorial ring. Were very much a thing back then. So, Blood and Sand, and I believe this came out at the beginning of this year. And then next up is this arc for a YA novel called Ink. The author is Alice Broadway, and this came out on January the 2nd, so it has been out. I don't tend to get, because I'm not predominantly a YA channel, I don't tend to get that many YA arcs. But this one apparently says, from the second you're born, every achievement, every failing, and every significant moment are all immortalized on your skin. There are honorable marks that let people know you're trustworthy and shameful tattoos that announce you as a traitor. After her father dies, Leora finds solace in the fact that his skin tells a wonderful story, that is, until she glimpses a mark on the back of his neck, the symbol of the worst crime a person can commit in Saintstone. He bought the last Nickelback album. Leora knows it has to be a mistake, but before she can do anything about it, the horrifying secret gets out, jeopardizing her father's legacy and Leora's life. And so it says, yeah, in her startlingly prescient debut, Alice Broadway shines a light on the dangerous measures we take to make our world feel orderly, even when the truth refuses to stay within the lines. Okay. Echoes of Orwell, etc., etc. All right, so Ink by Alice Broadway, which has been out since January. And then we have an arc for an adult SF release. This is from a publisher called Soho Press. Happy to get my hands on this, because now I can contact them. This is a book by a guy named Steve Tutongi, and it's called Side Life. And interesting, it kind of goes like this. Well, it says it's for fans of Blake Crouch and Philip K. Dick. Okay. Vin, a down-on-his-luck young tech entrepreneur forced out of the software company he started, takes a job house-sitting an ultra-modern Seattle mansion whose owner has gone missing. There he discovers a secret basement lab with an array of computers and 3 large, smooth caskets. Not the least bit suspicious at all. Inside one, he finds a woman in a state of suspended animation. There's also a dog-eared notebook filled with circuit diagrams, beautiful and intricate drawings of body parts, and pages of code. When Vin decides to climb into one of the caskets to see how dumb is Vin? Anyway, good lord. So he gets into the casket to see what happens. Okay. His reality begins to... I found mysterious caskets and a weird computer lab in the basement of the house I'm house-sitting in. Here's a strange woman, frozen inside one of the caskets. What if I climbed in it to see what would happen to me? If you want to meme that look I just gave, go right ahead. I could be fun. Anyway, so his reality begins to unravel. Alrighty then, and he finds himself on a terrifying journey that asks fundamental questions about reality, free will, and the meaning of a human life. And I imagine one of those questions, the definite answer is no, you do not want to climb into strange death caskets inside basements. Okay, next up. This one is an ARC, and it's from Ace, and so I may very well find one of these waiting for me at home. But this is a new book by S.M. Sterling, who for the first time in forever has written a novel, apparently, that is not set in his Change universe. This is a whole new thing. This is a book that comes out July the 3rd. See, I would have loved to have seen more stuff like this. Upcoming adult SF. But that's okay. I'm not going to complain. Even though I just did. So Black Chamber is the book, comes out July the 3rd, and is described as a rollicking spy thriller. It's an alt history. It says in an alternate 1912, President Taft suddenly dies, and Teddy Roosevelt wastes no time in grabbing power as he wins another term as president. 4 years later, the Great War is raging overseas, and the whole of Europe, Africa, and Western Asia is falling to the Central Powers. The Germans have plans to stop the U.S. from entering the conflict, but Roosevelt has the top-secret Black Chamber spy organization, and its cunning and deadly agent, Cuban-Irish-American Luz O'Malley Arostegui. Okay, Arostegui. A-R-O, with a little mark, S-T-E-G-U-I. I'm the worst pronunciator ever, so we'll just go with that. Going deep undercover on a transatlantic airship voyage. Cool. She will head wholly into enemy territory to gather intelligence on a diabolical new weapon that the Germans are set to deploy upon the shores of America. Okay, so it's alternate history fun. From S.M. Sterling, Black Chamber, and it arrives on July the 3rd. Now this next one is an ARC for a future YA title. This is going to come out in September from Amulet Books. The author is Jimmy Cageleias. Yeah, Jimmy Cageleias, I'm going to say. And it's called The Good Demon. Claire never wanted an exorcism. The preacher who helped her, didn't understand that her demon, known simply as her, was like a sister to Claire. She comforted Claire, made her feel brave, and helped to ease her loneliness. Now, Claire's only comforts are the 3 clues that she left behind. Be nice to him, June 20th, and remember the stories. To get her back, Claire must befriend the preacher's son and journey through the dark underbelly of their small southern town. But how much is she willing to sacrifice to bring back her demon, the good demon? Okay, I mean, I like it. Demon best friend. And yeah, that's a good little twist there. I dig it. So I might actually read this one. But The Good Demon comes out in September. And next up we have this big old thing here called Furyborn. The author is Claire Legrand, and as you can see, this appears to be one of these very shiny, large-scale epic YA fantasies, as it were. And it has one of those Furyborn, right? Those anthemic book titles, almost as it were. Okay. The gate will fall, you will know this time, by the rise of 2 human queens, one of blood and one of light. 2 queens will rise, they will carry the power of the 7. They will carry your fate in their hands. Okay, so it's that kind of thing. And this is a hardcover, so I imagine it's out now and has probably been out for a little while. But Furyborn by Claire Legrand. Let's get ready to birth some fury. And this next one is another ARC for a kid's book. This is actually like really a kid's book. This is a middle grade. And the only reason I hung on to this one is because it's Sarah Beth Durst. And so I'd kind of like to see what she did here. But this one came out in April. And it is called The Stone Girl Story. And I also kept it because I read the back, and I like the premise. Check this out. It's basically this little girl made of stone, right? Living stone. Mecha and her stone family were brought to life by the stories etched into their bodies. Now time is eroding these vital marks, and Mecha must find a stonemason to repair them. But the search is more complex than she'd imagined, and Mecha uncovers a scheme endangering all stone creatures. Only someone who casts stories into stone can help. But whom can Mecha trust? Where is the stonemason? Who will save them? Okay, see, I like that, you know. A girl made of stone trying to stay alive and keep her family alive. That's a fresh premise. And so, all right, out now, I guess. It was an April release. Came out on the 3rd, it says, by Sarah Beth Durst, The Stone Girl's Story. And then next I grabbed these because these look like they're going to be just hysterically hilarious, entertaining potboilers. This one here is called Subhuman, and next up is called Forsaken, and the author is Michael McBride, and these are described as a Unit 51 novel. That's what both of these are, Unit 51. So, well, let's grab our units and get going here. Subhuman, let's see what this is about. They are not human. Yeah, well, save your Donald Trump jokes, please. At a research station in Antarctica, because all cool shit happens in Antarctica, 5 of the world's top scientists have been brought together to solve one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Why it is that back cover blurbs of really bad novels always rhyme. No, that's not the mystery. Their subject, however, is anything but human. They are not natural. Good Lord. Deep beneath the ice, wait, are they GMO? What are they? The submerged ruins of a lost civilization hold the key to the strange mutations. Lost civilization. See, it's like, tick off the Lovecraft. That each scientist has encountered across the globe. A misshapen skull in Russia, the grotesque carvings of a lost race in Peru, the mummified remains of a humanoid monstrosity in Egypt. Okay. They're not friendly. Well, gosh, well, what are they then? They just sound really scary. When a series of sound waves trigger the ancient organisms, a new kind of evolution begins. You don't care about science, you can just put anything in your book. Latching onto a human host, crossbreeding with human DNA, a long-extinct life form is reborn. Its kind has not walked the earth for thousands of years. Its instincts are fiercer, more savage than any predator alive. It's always like that. I would love to see the book, right, where like some scientists, thaw out some, creature from, deep beneath the Antarctic ice or something like that. And it turns out to be, like a tribble, right? Really cute and cuddly, totally harmless, but everybody's terrified about it anyway, right? So they put it in labs and they, try to observe it and everything. But it's just, all it wants to do is take naps, all right? That would be an interesting twist. But no, it always has to be the most dangerous and fierce organism ever in the history of ever. Oh well. Its instincts are fiercer, more savage than any... I just read that part. And its prey are the scientists who unleashed it. Well, I bet you woke it up. I'd be pissed too. The humans who spawned it and the tender living flesh on which it feeds. See, this sounds hilarious as hell. Sounds really awful, but, maybe like, just eat popcorn and giggle to yourself and it could be fun. And I'm not even going to bother reading the back cover of Forsaken because I imagine that it's, Unit 51 have their hands full. And more than just their units. Okay, moving onward. This is an arc for The Wild Dead by Carrie Vaughn, which is the sequel to Bannerless, which is beginning a new series of hers. So I'm kind of happy to have this one. July 17th, this one comes out. And mysteries and murder abound in the sequel to Carrie Vaughn's post-apocalyptic mystery, Bannerless, as in I don't have a banner, right? A Philip K. Dick Award finalist. And so I don't want to give away too many spoilers in the blurb here, but it just takes place a century after environmental and economic collapse, where the people of the Coast Road have rebuilt their own sort of civilization, striving not to make the mistakes their ancestors did. But in a dystopian future of isolated communities, can our moral sense survive the worst hard times? Okay. So mysteries as civilization attempts to rebuild following an apocalypse. And so this is the second one. And I have Bannerless, but I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. But now with The Wild Dead, maybe it's time. So this, as I said, comes out on July 17th. And then here is something, boy, this sucker's fat, right? Check this out. This is called The Robots of Gotham, and the author is Todd McCulty. Never heard of him, so maybe a debut author. This is one that comes out June the 19th, so pretty soon. And let's see, John Joseph Adams' book. Okay, a thrilling adventure, it says, in a world one step away from total subjugation by machines. It's like 675 pages of this. So, well, let's go. Okay, yeah, definitely debut author. All right, he's from Nova Scotia. After long years of war, the United States has sued for peace, yielding to a brutal coalition of nations ruled by fascist machines. 1/4 of the country is under foreign occupation. Manhattan has been annexed by a weird robot monarchy, as opposed to a normal robot monarchy, I guess. And in Tennessee, a permanent peace is being delicately negotiated between the battered remnants of the U.S. government and an envoy of implacable machines. A Canadian... See, what I always wonder about stories like this is, has anyone thought to drop an EMP bomb, right? Just knock them all out that way, and we're good. Maybe there's a reason for that is not happening. Canadian businessman Barry Simcoe arrives in occupied Chicago days before his hotel is attacked by a rogue war machine. In the aftermath, he meets a dedicated Russian medic with the occupying army and 19 Black Winter, a badly damaged robot. Together, they stumble on a machine conspiracy to unleash a horrific plague and learn that the fabled American resistance is not as extinct as everyone believes. Simcoe races against time to prevent the extermination of all life on the continent and uncover a secret that America's machine conquerors are desperate to keep hidden. Okay, so it's that kind of thing. You know, the machines are out to get us. Apocalyptic story. And it comes out on the 19th, The Robots of Gotham. And then finally, in my batch of keepers, this one looks really, really nice. And this appears to be, one of the few books I picked up this time that has any sort of aspirations to literary respectability, but that's okay. It's called The Book of M, as you see. The author is Peng Shepherd, another debut novelist. And this would appear to be another post-apoc scenario, but in the vein more of Station 11, rather than, oh no, we've dug something up from the ice and the war machines are killing us. It's a little bit quieter. And it goes like this. It says, one afternoon at an outdoor market in India, a man's shadow disappears, an occurrence that science cannot explain. He is only the first. The phenomenon spreads like a plague, and while those affected gain a strange new power, the magic comes at a horrible price, the loss of all their memories. 2 years later, Ori and his wife Max have escaped the forgetting by hiding in an abandoned hotel deep in the woods outside Arlington, Virginia. Their new life feels almost normal until their greatest fear happens to them, and Max's shadow disappears too. Knowing that the more she forgets, the more dangerous she will become to the person most precious to her, Max runs away while Ori is out foraging for supplies, but he refuses to give up what little time they have together. Desperate to find Max before her memory disappears completely, Ori follows her trail across a perilous, unrecognizable world, braving the threat of roaming bandits, the call to a new war being waged amid the ruins of the capital, and the rise of a sinister cult that worships the shadowless. On their separate journeys, each searches for answers. For Ori, about love, about survival, about hope, and for Max, about a mysterious new force growing in the South that may hold the cure. So interesting, and it sounds very, very large-scale and ambitious. The Book of M, and this is a June release from William Morrow. So I'm really interested in digging into this one. So there you have it. That is the goodie bag swag for the Nebula Conference 2018. Now there, as I said, were a lot more books that I did not choose to keep. I'm not going to take home. Oh, well, that's not true. There's like one book. I picked up an extra copy of The Queens of Innisleer by Tessa Grafton because I want to donate it to my local library. So that's it. That's what I am taking home from my Nebula goodie bag swag. Let me know in the comments, since this is sort of your replacement mailbag for this week, which of these looks most interesting and exciting to you, and what you'd like for me to prioritize for review. Otherwise, if you enjoyed watching, like, share, and sub, all that good stuff. Once again, thank you all. If you haven't watched the Q&A video, go and do that. And you can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's Army get little perks like getting to see some of these videos early, things like that. I want to thank them for their additional support. I want to thank you for being the best viewers on BookTube. And until I see you all next time, happy reading.